Did you have the same squad you hung out with in prison?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I always hung out with Italian guys, you know, mob guys. You know, I did state time, New York state time, and then I did federal prison time. So it's different. In the New York state, the Italian guys were like, we were like pretty much hooked up with the Latin Kings. Like we had each other's back. In the feds, there was so many Italian guys. So we were all clicked up really by what city we came from. Like there was the New York crew, the Philly crew, the Chicago crew.
There was that many Italian guys?
Crew. Oh yeah, from all over the country, yeah.
All right, guys, got Anthony Ruggiano here today. Thanks for coming on, man.
Oh, my pleasure. I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah, I've been seeing you blow up on the internet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How long you been doing the podcast for now?
About 3 years, coming up on 3 years. You know, I just got into this, you know, I had no clue about podcasts or shows, and I just got a phone call one day that these people in England were looking to keep hearing things about me and my father, and they wanted to put me on this show, National Geographic, Narco was, and I did it, and then one thing led to another, and I ended up getting my own podcast.
Nice. Yeah. And do you interview people, or is it just you?
Yeah, no, I do both. I interview, I tell my own story. You know, I interview people that I know. I interview people that are in recovery because I'm in recovery. So yeah, I interview people.
Right. How long you been in recovery?
I'm coming up on 36 years.
Holy
clean
crap.
and sober.
Dude,
Before
congrats.
you were born.
Yeah, I'm 27,
yeah.
so.
I got clean in 1989, January of 1989.
And it was really bad before that?
Yeah, it was, the last few years were bad. You know, the last few years were were kind of crazy, yeah.
What was the substance? It was alcohol? Oh,
cool. Yeah, I was freebasing at the end, you know, it was not pretty.
You were freebasing? What's that?
It's before crack that we would cook it up ourselves and smoke it, and then after it progressed into crack. But they used to call I don't know if you ever heard of Richard Pryor. Did you ever hear Richard Pryor? He was a famous comedian. He caught on fire from freebasing. That's how it was a form. So you took the and you purified it yourself and you smoked it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So you kind of made it on your own.
Yeah, it was bad.
Damn.
Yeah, it was bad.
And what compelled you to that addiction, you think?
Well, you know, and I'm a 70s kid, so I'm in the early 70s, you know, I'm in the mob. My father's a May guy, you know what I mean? So now a lot of doors were opening for me, and I'm running around Manhattan. I'm running around to all these clubs, and everybody's blowing, you know, it was very expensive. It was like the beautiful people did it back then, like I guess you could say, and it was all in all the clubs in Manhattan. And it started out like anything else, recreationally, having a good time, sniffing a little, drinking, the girls, the this, to that. And, you know, then over the years, you know, the progression of the disease of addiction. And then, you know, just in the early 70s, you know, it started out on weekends. And then as time went on, and then into the 80s, it started becoming an issue. I guess maybe the way I was wired. I mean, because, you know, it's funny when you talk about addiction, because people that I used with, you know, when I was a kid in my 20s didn't become addicts, but I did. So, you know, maybe it's just hereditary or the way I was wired, my personality, and then in the 80s, it became an issue. It started becoming an issue, and then in '88, I went into a treatment center. My father's partner, Tony Lee, paid for me to go into a treatment center in Vermont, and I got clean, and I came out, and you know, I've been clean.
Wow. These days, it seems like because they're laced, it doesn't even seem worth it.
It's terrible. You know, now I work in, that's what I do now. I work, besides having my podcast and all this and doing these interviews, I work in a detox now. I became a counselor. I was a counselor, a case manager. Now I'm a technician at a detox. So I deal with addiction every day.
Damn. Yeah, it just seems like the chances of dying are so high now, it's not even worth just randomly doing it at a party.
Oh, no. With the fentanyl, I tell my patients, today, you're playing Russian roulette. If you buy street drugs today, you're playing Russian roulette because fentanyl is in everything. I mean, it's literally in everything. You know, you think you're buying, you're going to do a few lines of fentanyl in it, and you're overdosing. You think you're buying some Xanax, you know, some Bruce Bar, you know, Xanax, and there's fentanyl in it. So kids today, it's if I was getting high today, I'd be dead.
Crazy. Yeah, back then when you were doing it, no one was overdosing, right?
They were, but not like today. You know, like randomly, you know, from was all, you know, I never messed with, but yeah, that overdoses were not like today. Every day, people are dying every day. It's
terrible.
crazy.
Were you strictly on the consumer side, or were you pushing it too?
No, I
This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/DSH and get on your way becoming your best self. My fiance Ariel plays a big role in my mental health, helping me realize my true potential. Everyone's trying their best around you, so take time to appreciate someone close to you. I've tried therapy in the past, and it helped me go through some tough times when I was in college dealing with mental health. I was on prescription medication. I actually had agoraphobia when I was in college, and therapy helped me figure out some answers to how to fix that problem. For 2 months, I couldn't even leave my house, or I would have a full-on panic attack. So I love companies like BetterHelp that can get therapy in front of the masses. But therapy definitely helped me get better, and I definitely appreciate companies like BetterHelp because it's completely online and it's conveniently suited to fit your schedule and accommodate life surprises. Fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a licensed therapist today with the freedom to switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Visit betterhelp.com/DSH to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DSH. Check them out now.
really wasn't, I mean, I pushed it once in a while. My brother had a very big marijuana business back when marijuana was illegal. Unfortunately, he was way ahead of his time. So he had a really big marijuana business in the 70s and 80s. But other than that, we weren't pushing drugs.
Did he get popped?
It's funny. He never got popped, but
Wow.
the guys that worked for him and ran for him, a couple of them went to prison for it, but he never.
Oh, so they didn't rat on him.
No.
Nice.
Back then, no. So they went to prison for marijuana.
It's so silly to say it now, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
legal
I mean,
everywhere.
even me, I went to prison for bookmaking. It's legal today. Sports betting, numbers is the lotto. That's everything I went to jail for outside of murder is legal today.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
That makes you feel pissed, probably, right?
It does. At times, it really does. Yeah, definitely.
You served years.
I went to jail for years. I spent 14 years in prison.
Holy crap. Was that mainly for the bookmaking?
Well, no. When the first time I went to prison was in 1978. I went to prison we robbed a liquor warehouse. And then I went to prison in 91. That was for policy. That was for the lottery. We had a number business.
Lottery.
Yeah, the lottery like that they have now. The states all have the lottery, the numbers. So we had an illegal number business, and I went to jail for that. And then in 95, I got arrested for sports betting, for bookmaking, and I went to jail for that, and extortion, and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Damn. Which one brought in the most money?
Oh, the bookmaking and brought in the most. The numbers brought in the most money because that's an everyday thing. That's like people are betting dollars and 50 cents and quarters and dimes and $5. So it was a lot of money.
Wow. So you literally had your own lottery. That's crazy.
Yeah, we did. Well,
I didn't know that was a business.
Yeah, that was a big business. Yeah, it was a big business. Big. Yeah, but I went to jail for it, of course. Yeah.
I always wonder what the mafia does now for money because it's a lot harder to get away with stuff, right?
That's a good question because I was talking to somebody the other day. Like, I don't know what they do anymore because everything, like I said, everything I did to earn money today is legal. They're selling drugs. That's for sure. I mean, that's for sure. And probably, white collar crimes. Stocks, bonds, whatever they could. Listen, the mob is going to do whatever they could do to make money. They're going to think ways to make money. But everything I did to make money back then, I couldn't do today. First of all, there's too much surveillance. There's cameras everywhere you go. I mean, there's cameras in people's doorbells. I mean, it's insane. Like I made money with fraudulent credit cards. You couldn't do that anymore because every store you go in, there's cameras.
Right.
Then I had a vending company. I mean, I'm sure there's still people out there with gambling machines and bodegas and all that stuff. So they're still making money with gambling because even though gambling is legal, not everybody has a bank account. So if you don't have a bank account, you can't hook the app up to a checking account or a savings account. You can't bet legally, so you're going to go to a bookmaker. Right. So there's ways for them to make money, not like it used to be. And there's no more violence.
So no more like murders or anything?
No. They're not doing that anymore. I mean,
was it because they kept killing each other? They were like,
it's because of the surveillance, because of the laws, and because people are cooperating.
Yeah, the surveillance is insane. I'm watching these cases on these rappers right now, and they tracked the murderer from their phones and the towers.
Yeah.
It showed they were at the same place at the same time.
Yeah, and then they got like the Colombo. It's fun, and then you got everybody's on TikTok and YouTube and and Instagram and this guy was on the lam, a Colombo guy, a captain in the Colombo family, Michael Francis's whole family.
Yeah.
He was on the lam hiding from the FBI, and his son put his picture on Instagram or TikTok, and the guy had to go surrender himself because they knew where he was.
Yeah, because all they need is a photo now, right?
That's it.
Even your Tesla, if you have a Tesla, it pretty much tracks wherever you go.
Everywhere.
That's crazy.
So the way I made money back then, I wouldn't know how to make money illegally today. I would, because somebody asked me the other day, what if I had to do anything illegal today, what would I do?
Yeah.
And I says, I would do two things. They said, what? I would smuggle untaxed cigarettes from Florida to New York because in New York, cigarettes are $17 a pack. And then when I got to New York, I would go to Canal Street and get knockoff Gucci's and Louis Vuittons and bring them back to Florida. That's the only thing I would know how to do right now.
It's tough,
but
now.
I'm not. I mean, that's what I would do.
Yeah, cigarettes in prison sell for a lot, though, right?
A lot right now. You can't smoke in it. You got to smuggle them in. It's like drugs now.
Crazy. When you were in prison, were there drugs everywhere?
Everywhere.
I wonder if it's still like that now.
The first time I went to prison, I had my own drugs. I mean, I was getting, the COs were bringing me marijuana and volumes and alcohol.
That's not too bad then.
No, it was good. Yeah, the second and third time, I didn't, I wasn't using them. I was clean and everything, so I had no use for anything like that. But I did have use for food. They were bringing us food, a lot of,
Nice.
So that was good.
Did you have the same squad you hung out with in prison?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I always hung out with Italian guys, mob guys. Yeah.
Yeah, you were probably protected pretty well.
We had our own little clique. We were always hooked up all in this. It's different. I did state time, New York State time, and then I did federal prison time. So it's different. In the New York State, the Italian guys we were pretty much hooked up with the Latin Kings. Like we had each other's back. Yeah, in the state prisons. In the feds, there was so many Italian guys, so we were all clicked up really by what city we came from. Like there was the New York crew, the Philly crew, the Chicago crew.
There was that many Italian guys?
Crew. Oh, yeah, from all over the country, yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah,
Which prison were you in?
I was in Schuylkill for 5 years. I was in Otisville. I bounced around, but I did most of my fed time in Schuylkill.
How was
my
that?
roommate was Kevin Kelly. He was a Westie. Ever hear of the Westies?
Yeah, the Irish, right?
Yeah, from Hell's Kitchen. Same name as you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you on good terms with the Westies when you were out of prison?
When I was out of prison, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, they were with the Gambino family.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What about other spots like biker gangs and?
I never really did any business with biker gangs. I knew a couple of them, but I wasn't really friendly with them. We never really had much interaction with them.
Mm-hmm.
But the Westies, a lot of interaction with Dominicans. Because I had a vending company. So my vending company were machines, and there were a lot of illegal gambling machines, and I had them in bad neighborhoods, more to say in the hood. Mm-hmm. That's where the money was, and I had them in Dominican after-hour clubs and Puerto Rican bodegas. So I did a lot of business with the Hispanic population.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. So all the beef then was internal, it was with other families mainly?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's what I noticed with all the documentaries I watched. Yeah. It's never like other...
Yeah, no, always within amongst ourselves.
Was it within your family or was it with the other families mainly?
In my day, it was just within in the Gambino family. But I mean, all the mob wars that were in my time were all internal. Like the Colombo War, it was internal. Michael Francis could talk to you about about that. Yeah, so it was all, and even the people that got killed in the Gambino family was all internal.
Damn. Was your dad pretty open with you about everything, or was he keeping it pretty
No, he was very open with me. I mean, in the beginning, growing up when I was a kid, he was in the mob since the day I was born. He became a made member the same year I was born in 1953. So I grew up in the life. I mean, and in the beginning, I didn't really know what he did, but I just knew something was different. Mm-hmm. But when I started at 16, when I actually went to work for him, then he started to school me in the life. And then when I was in my early 20s, he started telling me about acts of violence that he personally committed with other members. Like he would tell me, we would be out one night and we would meet this guy and he would tell me I did a piece of work with him. That meant that, they committed a murder together.
Damn.
Because in the mob, they consider murder work. That's the code name. Like he did a piece of work.
Wow. And he was just telling you this in your 20s.
Yeah, my 20s.
Did you react? Were you like, holy crap, this is serious?
Honestly, I was impressed. You know,
I didn't expect that answer.
To be honest, at that point in time, you know, listen, you got to understand, I was raised in this with this mentality that way of life was the right way of life, and society out there's way of life was the wrong way of life. So this was ingrained in my brain, and these are the people I grew up with. These are the adults that I grew up around. So when I got into the street, like, I was impressed that I was Fat Andy's son. So that gave me like a little swagger, you know what I mean? I got some kind of respect, and I liked the feeling. It was like a drug. I liked that feeling. I liked doors being open for me. You know, like, I liked being able to go to the Copacabana, like in Goodfellas, through the basement, up through the kitchen, you know.
Wow, that actually happened?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
That's a real thing.
Damn.
Yeah. And I liked it, you know. So you know, when he told me and his reputation, I liked it. You know, his reputation impressed me.
Right.
You know what I mean? The mob life impressed me, and he was a big figure in the mob. So when he told me about things like that, it really didn't faze me. Now when I think of it now, you know, I was crazy.
You were just programmed.
It was
you know?
crazy, you know. Like, and then later on, you know, him and I actually committed a murder together. You know, like, it's insane.
Wow, you and your dad?
Yeah.
Damn, that's
well,
crazy.
not together. He was in prison, and he okayed the murder.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's nuts. And sometimes the flashiness is the demise of the person, like with Gotti.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, well, he was way too, I mean, that was crazy. He was on the front page of Time magazine. My father was never that flashy. I mean, my father was front page news. That's how we found out. You know, that's how my kid brother found out my father was in the mob, because he was on the front page of the newspaper.
So he had no idea.
No, because he was 2 years younger than me. So when my father had gotten arrested for bookmaking sports, because it was illegal, and it was on the front page of the newspaper, and my father was upstairs, and my father said, "Did Albert read the newspaper?" And I said, "Yeah," because he was a really good baseball player, my brother, and my father used to go to all those little league games, and he had a game that night, and my father went downstairs and says to my brother, "You read the paper?" And he said, "Yeah," and he says, "You still want me to come to the baseball game with you?" And my brother said, "Of course I do." So that's how my brother found out he was in the mob. And then it's funny, because we went to the game that night, and all the baseball fathers, they didn't know my father was in the mob. Now they all knew. They were like, "Oh, Andy, we didn't know." They were like his best friend, you know?
Man.
Yeah, you know, they were like so thrilled.
Yeah, they suckered up.
Yeah.
Because back then, that's massive respect.
Big. And then even me, like in 1974, I got arrested on Mulberry Street in Little Italy. I got arrested, and it was in the newspaper. That was the first time my name was in the newspaper. You know, I went out that weekend, and I was like a celebrity. You know what I mean? Like, it was, you know, it was intoxicating.
Yeah. I could see why Gotti fell in love with the attention.
Of course. I always used to go out with John Gotti. He used to sign autographs.
Damn. Oh, so you were hanging with him.
Hanging with him. Yeah, he bought me a car when I got out of treatment, out of the drugs treatment center.
Wow. So you were really close with him.
Oh, yeah. I was very tight with him. For some reason, he liked me. Thank God.
I haven't heard many positive things about him, but it sounds like you were.
No, see, we had a different, my family and my friends had a very different relationship with him than the rest of the city, because we knew him from when he was a nobody. Like, we all come from the same neighborhood. My father knew him since he was a kid.
Wow.
His partner, Tony Lee, knew him since he was a teenager. So I knew him from when I was 16. He was in his 20s. So, you know, we knew him before he was John Gotti, let's say. So we had a different relationship with him, and we lived in Ozone Park, so we had access to him every day.
Got it.
You know what I mean? And we had some things in common, you know, so I got along really good with him, and he always looked out for me.
Nice. Were you telling him to tone it down, or no, you just let him live it up?
No, because actually the people that were around him really liked the notoriety. Listen, any mob guy that tells you they don't like reading their names in the newspaper, full of even if it's derogatory stuff, they like it. You know what I mean? They like it.
Did you ever deal with Sammy back then too?
No, but I knew Sammy. You know, I never had any dealings with him personally, but you know, we knew each other. You know, he used to, you know, he was a very stern guy back then. But yeah, I used to see him all the time at the Ravenite, and my old man and his partner had a construction company. They did business with Sammy, you know, with construction stuff. But I didn't know him like I know him now. Man,
his stories are legendary.
Yeah.
He's escaped death many times.
Many times.
I'm sure you have too.
Yeah,
Was there any moments in your career where you're like, I might not walk out of this room?
There was a couple of meetings I went on that were kind of dangerous. Like I went on. Did you ever see The Gangs of New York? That movie, The Gangs of New York, with Leonardo DiCaprio.
A while ago, yeah.
Okay, well, there's the tunnels down in the 5 Points. Those tunnels still exist.
Really?
Yeah. And I had a meeting down there once, and it was kind of eerie walking through those tunnels.
I bet.
Like, you could get lost down there, and I was going, how the get out of this place? And I had to meet these kids, and I had to straighten out some beef, but I made it out. A couple of times I had guns pointed at me. A couple of times I was in clubs where shootouts took place. But I made it out.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Yeah, back then they were probably less strict on the guns in the clubs.
Oh yeah, we used to take guns on airplanes. We used to put them in our luggage and go on an airplane with guns. Everything was wide open. I used to take a gun on an airplane.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
That's nuts. What was the beef you were settling underground? Was that between families?
No. Well, what happened was we at a club. We were in a club, and a friend of mine, some friends of mine that were with us, had a beef outside, and someone got stabbed.
Damn.
And for some reason, it was really more of a shakedown. They wanted to press charges, and this guy, Greg, knew this. They were like a gang from down there, and that's where they stood in these tunnels. So I had to go down there and bring them money, and it was, and I had to go, and they met me in the street, and then and they walked us down through all these tunnels and to where they were waiting for me. So it was a little eerie. I wasn't really worried about getting hurt, like killed or anything, but it was an uncomfortable feeling.
Damn, that's
I can
crazy.
tell you that.
Yeah, because people couldn't lay a hand on a made man, right?
No, I mean, you could, but you would have got killed for it. I mean, even a made guy's son, I mean, if anybody would have killed me back then, they would have been in a lot of trouble. I mean, some people I almost got stabbed one night in a club.
Damn.
They had a big sit down over it.
But did they know it was you, though? Or?
They knew. Yeah, they tried to say they didn't, but they knew who we were. And what happened was a guy went to stare me, and there was like a ceramic ashtray on the bar, and my friend Sally Minicello saw the guy, and he took the ceramic ashtray and he hit the guy on the head with it.
Damn.
And the knife fell out of his hand. And there was a couple of wise guys there, and so we had a big sit down over that. And the kid that tried to stare me actually ran away. It's a funny story because now the kid knew he was in trouble, and he ran away.
Jeez.
Like he left the neighborhood. He came from downtown Manhattan, and he left the neighborhood. And years later, I'm in jail in 1979. This happened in the early 70s.
Yeah.
I'm in jail, and I'm in my room because I was in a prison where we had rooms in Art to Kill, and this guy comes up to my room and he goes, "Listen, there's a guy in the yard, and this kid's nickname was Mush." Mm-hmm. He goes, "This kid Mush is in the yard. He's terrified. He found out you were here." Right? So I said, "Oh, Mush is here," So he came. He's a tank kid. He came up to. I said, "Go get him," and they got him. They brought him up to my room, and he was, "I'm so sorry," we just let it go.
Patched it up?
Yeah.
Wow.
We patched it up. Yeah, this was like 5 or 6 years later.
Damn, you probably didn't even recognize him. That's crazy.
Yeah.
How did those sit downs work? Like, is it just like the movies where each side speaks?
Yes, it's like a board meeting. It's like a business meeting. It's you sit down. Most of the time it's over money or business or somebody got or it could be over something violent. But most of the time it's strictly over business, over money. I mean, all the sit downs. Most of the sit downs that I was personally involved in were all over money. Who owed money? If we owed money, they owed money, or some kind of business, or some kind of location, like a vending location. Like, in other words, if I have a vending machine in your bar, mm-hmm. and you're the owner of the bar, and I'm your vendor. So this is a mob thing, and I'm your vendor, and you sell the bar to someone else. That's still my and now that someone else is with a different mob guy or a different family. The vending location still belongs to me.
Got it. Okay.
But sometimes they would try to get out of that, or and that would be a sit down because it's still my spot, and I would maybe be asked to give the spot up, or maybe asked to sell the spot.
Makes sense.
But that would be a sit down, stuff like that. Bookmaking.
What percent of money did you have to kick up when you first joined?
Well, I really didn't have to kick up anything because my father was the boss. But usually you kick up 10%, or you make them partners. But I mean, when my father was in prison, and his partner Tony Lee died, and I just put them on the payroll. Like my vending company, I would give them money every week out of my vending company, but I didn't have to kick up. But guys, everybody kicked up usually an envelope every month. Some guys kicked up $2,500. Some guys kicked up $1,000. Yeah. It all depended. I mean, my father and his partner probably were getting maybe $20,000, $30,000 a month in envelopes from people that were with him.
That's solid. Back then, that's
a lot of money. No, they made a lot of money. That's when money was money.
Yeah. Were you guys the most successful family financially, you think?
The Gambinos, without a doubt. Yeah, the Gambinos and the Genovese family, they were the two biggest. But I would say, yeah, it's like, it's crazy money. I mean, it's just, listen, I had a nothing vending company. I mean, I had a small little vendor company, and I was bringing in $20,000, $25,000 a week cash.
Damn, a week?
Yeah,
dude. Back then, that's like $50K a week these days.
Yeah, and then I mean, it's all gone now. Unfortunately,
all spent on lawyers.
Yeah. You know, even so the number business, so the policy, so numbers, like a lot. You know, you go in stores now, and there's a lottery machine, and people are waiting online to play the lottery. Back then, it was in the neighborhoods. It was in Jamaica, Queens. We were doing a day. Now, we weren't making it. So it's a whole procedure. So there's a banker, there's a controller, and then there's runners. We were the controllers. So the banker would give us 35% of the gross.
Got it.
And we would give the runner, so a runner, you would be a runner, you would bring me business, and I would give you 25%. So if you brought me $1,000 a day in business, you kept 25%.
Got it.
So when the smoke cleared, the controller made 10%. We were grossing $80,000, $90,000 a day.
Holy
in numbers,
crap.
Gambling.
On the lottery?
On the lottery.
Damn.
Yeah, it was insane. So we, now out of that $9,000 that we made every day, of course we had expenses. We had to pay people, But so you're talking a lot, and this is all cash. This ain't no credit cards. So, just think of the money the mob makes.
That's insane. And then the RICO came, right?
The RICO came, and it's funny because when the RICO started, the test case, when they got their first conviction for the RICO, I remember my old man was sitting in the kitchen in his robe, and he had the newspaper open. And I came up from downstairs. I lived in the basement. We had an apartment, and I came upstairs to have coffee with him, and he had the newspaper open, and he says, "It's all over for us."
Whoa. So he knew right away.
He knew right away. He said,
Holy
"It's
crap.
all over for us." And you know what? And between him and I, we got indicted for 5 RICOs.
Damn. 5.
Yeah.
One's already hard to fight, but 5.
I got indicted for 2. I got indicted for 2 federal RICOs and 1 state RICO.
Holy crap. Which one was the toughest one?
Well, the last federal indictment, RICO I had that I went to prison for was in 96. I got indicted in 96 in Florida, right down here in Miami for a RICO. I took a plea. I got 10 years. And then when I got out in 04, in 05, I got indicted for another federal RICO with a murder.
They waited till you got out.
Yeah, they waited. I committed a murder in 1988. They put that in a RICO. And then I cooperated later, about a year after that. So, yeah, I got indicted for 3 RICOs. And I was one of the first people to get indicted for a state RICO.
Wow. I didn't know there was a state RICO.
Yeah, they have a state RICO. Yeah, New York State has a RICO. They call it an ORCA, whatever that means. Yeah, but it's just organized crime, something.
Holy crap.
Everything has initials.
So they put murder under the RICO? I didn't know they could do that.
That's what they do. Yeah, they put, it's a predicate, because the RICO has to be predicate acts. So it has to be an ongoing criminal conspiracy, but it has to have predicate acts. So my RICO was murder and gambling. Those were my predicate acts to show that I stood in the, that it was I was part of an ongoing criminal enterprise.
Damn.
The other RICO that I went away for in 96, the predicate acts were extortion, murder conspiracy, arson. It was all predicate acts showing like over a period of time.
Damn, you were living fearless back then.
Yeah, I had no conscience, no, really, no, I had no conscience, it was just, that's what we did. People asked me what my job was. My job was, I was a criminal. That was my job. Every waking moment of the day, we committed crimes. If my eyes were open, I was committing a crime. That's how, and that's why when I had no skills. My father taught me how to be a criminal. Because that's what he believed in.
Right.
And then when I got out of the life, I had no skills. And it was kind of scary because I don't know how to fix it. I still have no skills. You know, I had no Social Security. I had no 401k. I had nothing. You know, the mob doesn't give you a retirement plan. You know what I mean?
Right.
There was no money. You know, and so now when I cooperated and I got out of the life, when you know I'm 60 years old, I had no skills, and then one day my phone rings, and it's this friend of mine that ran a treatment center, and he goes, listen, I spoke to the owner of the treatment center, and we want to offer you a job. I said, a job? Doing what? They said, we think you would make a good counselor. I said, what the counselor? I don't know nothing about being a counselor. He goes, no. He goes, listen, we think with your life experience and everything you overcame, the mob, jail, you know, you got a lot of years sober, we think you would, you know, really do good as a counselor. And we want to put you back in school to become a counselor. I said, school? Now, you know what I mean? He goes, yeah, you know, we'll pay for it, you know. And you know, and I thought about it, and I, you know, and I did it. I packed up and I left Michigan. I was living in Michigan at the time, and I came to Florida, and I became a counselor.
Wow.
You know, so I guess my skill was my life.
Your experience, yeah.
My experience.
Because you got clean years prior, so.
Yeah, you know, and that's another thing. You know, here I am now, I'm clean. That's when my thought process started changing. So now I'm clean, and I'm trying to work this 12-step program, and I'm hanging out with people that are clean, and I'm still in the street. I'm still committing crimes, and where things started rubbing me the wrong way, like things that had never fazed me, well, now it's starting to, I was starting to develop, in spite of myself, really, I was developing a conscience. And I started feeling uncomfortable again in my own skin, and then, you know, like I hit a bottom with the drugs, like I started hitting a bottom with my life, my lifestyle, you know.
Right.
You know, now I had 2 kids. I had a little girl. I had a son, a daughter. And, you know, here I am. I'm clean. I'm clean a lot of years. I'm clean like 9 or 10 years. And I'm locked up. I'm in Attica, which was a violent prison. Cockroaches crawling all over the wall, you know, and I'm going like, what the am I doing?
Jeez.
You know, and then I got indicted while I'm in prison. I get indicted in Florida.
Oh.
You know, and you know, now it's just you know, like it was a crazy way to live, but I never knew that. And you know, I never knew that until I got clean and I started working on myself. You know, and then I wrote like an autobiography of my life. Of course, it's like, I don't know if you know anything about the 12 steps.
I do.
All right.
Yeah.
So you know, in the 4th step, I had to take a personal inventory of myself. And I wrote that inventory while I was in Attica, in a jail cell.
Wow.
And I looked at, you know, and you know, I just said that I can't do this anymore. You know, and
damn, hell of a story, man. That's crazy. Yeah, because in prison you're surrounded by drugs, but you're sober, so it must have been a weird kind of dynamic, right?
yeah, you know what? This is how I felt. Somebody asked me that question in prison. So now I'm in Attica. I don't know if you know. So now I'm in Attica. I have a federal detainer on me. So they raised my security to high, super high. So now Attica is probably one of the most secured, violent prisons in the New York State system. And now I'm in Attica. But now this is how crazy life is. So now I have my own cell. I have a little 13-inch TV in my cell. I have a box window that in the winter, it's like a refrigerator. I have 2 hot pots. I have a robe. I have some comforts, right? So now someone asked me one day, why don't, you know, you don't even smoke a joint and everything. I said, listen, why would I smoke a joint? And then they take my urine and I give them a dirty urine and I'm going to lose everything in my cell? Is it worth me, my TV? It's not worth my TV. It's not worth my hot pots because people that have issues with drugs have to understand that when you cross over the imaginary line into addiction, when you use any substance, there's going to be consequences. And until you're not okay with those consequences, you're going to keep using.
Right.
So my consequence in Attica was if I used, I would like to use. I would like to smoke a joint right now. I would like to go smoke a joint today. But if I used then and I gave them a dirty urine, I'm going to lose all this stuff. And that's a consequence I wasn't willing to take.
Smart.
Yeah.
Damn, you seem really level-headed for all the stuff you've been through, dude. Do you have any like PTSD or like?
I probably do. I think my therapist, I was in therapy because when I first went into when I left New York, I had to live under assumed name and everything. and I was getting a little jammed up in the head because nobody knew who I was, and I needed someone to know who I was.
Right.
So I found a therapist, and I
It's
told
like
her,
Sopranos.
yeah, exactly. and I told her who I was, and she used to do so. She said I had a lot of I was traumatized.
Oh yeah.
No, I definitely was. It's not normal things I did. Yeah, so we were working on a few things. I don't know if I have PTSD. I mean, I do have some issues. I have issues.
Nightmares.
I have nightmares. Yeah, I have some. I get sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I think about things I did, people I hurt. You know what I mean? Like I hurt my family. I did bad things. Listen, I was a violent criminal. I did damage to my children. I missed a lot of their lives. Wow. I feel some remorse. I feel like I missed a lot. I believed in what I did. I believed in that way of life because that was what's instilled to me, and I didn't take other people into consideration. And I think I gave up a lot for that life. Like I went to jail. The last time I went to jail, my daughter was 3. I got out, she was 11. My son was 13. I got out when he was 21.
Wow.
I gave up so much for that life, and at the end of the day, it wasn't worth it because that life betrayed me.
Damn. That's a deep statement, man.
Yeah.
Because that was your whole life.
Yeah.
That's everything you knew, your father's life.
Yeah.
Holy crap. But you didn't feel the remorse in the moment. It was all after.
Didn't even faze me. Listen, I got locked up for murdering my brother-in-law. I picked him up and drove him to a place where he got murdered. Like I drove him to his death.
And you knew.
Yeah, I knew. Of course, we planned it for months.
Your father planned it, right?
Yeah, he okayed it.
Wow.
John Gotti okayed it. And it didn't even faze me.
Damn.
Now I think of it now and it's horrible. Like I didn't take my sisters into consideration. I didn't take my niece into consideration. Like it was horrible what I did. And now I think of it now and how do I mend that fence? How do I my niece hates me. It's terrible what we did. But back then, the way I was just a different person.
Yeah, that's crazy. You were so programmed to that life. You didn't even think about how other people would react.
I picked him up. He was smiling. He got in my car.
Oh, he had no idea.
Oh, no, he had no idea.
Damn.
No, he had no idea.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's the mob. But that's the mob. A father and son planning a murder. That's the mob. And a guy like Joey Molina, speaking of Joey Molina, like guys like that and guys that are in the street today, like they think that's okay. Like I'm wrong for thinking the way I'm wrong for thinking that was wrong.
Right.
I mean, how crazy is that?
Yeah, you were taught to never snitch, never rat on anyone.
Never. That's okay. If someone, like Sammy the Bull, he frames it like really well. People, listen, if you choose to be in the life of the mob, there's rules. And you have to know it going in that if you break these rules, you might pay with your life. And the people that I know died broke the rules. But who are we to judge them? Who are we to decide who lives and who dies? That's my point. Like, who was John Gotti to decide who lives or dies? Who was Fat Andy to decide who lives or dies? But that's the life that they led, that if you break rules, you could die. And the people that died broke the rules.
How many people that you were in with survived?
That I was in with? Oh, I mean, a couple of my friends were killed. I mean, I know guys that my personal friend, my brother's friend was murdered. My brother's best friend was murdered.
Damn.
I mean, a lot of people I know. My friend Greg was murdered in front of his house.
Jeez.
My friend Tito was murdered. He killed Jimmy Burke's son. Tito the barber. He was murdered in his barber shop.
Wow, yeah, they're either locked up or dead. I think Michael said only one guy on that top 75 money list is still alive other than him.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Especially his family. His family was one of the most violent families. They were killing each other. They had more wars than I could forget it. Yeah.
I wonder why. That's weird.
It just was all internal. I don't know, all over, ego, who wanted to be the boss, listen, the mob runs on greed and ego.
Yeah, you were probably dealing with a lot of that, right?
All the time.
Especially the way you grew up under the boss. So.
Greed, ego, and self-centeredness.
Yeah. You seem like a really changed guy now, though.
I am. It's funny because An FBI agent once told me that you and your father are sociopaths, and I didn't know what he meant. Wait, I said, what the a sociopath? He said, no, not a psychopath. You and your father are sociopaths. And then I looked it up, and I said, damn, he's right. I was a sociopath, but not now. I mean, still have a couple of the traits left. I'm working on, like, those are my character defects. Yeah, but, I could never live that life. I'm definitely not the same person, without a doubt. Like, I look at my son, I could never do the things with my son that my father did with me. Definitely not the same person.
When did you know the FBI was on you? Did they call you or something beforehand, before the arrest?
For the last time, for the murder?
Yeah.
No. So what happened was I had to go to a wedding that night.
Yeah.
So I lived out in Long Island in Comac, and I had to drive to Queens to pick up my son. So I drove to Queens, and he wasn't home yet. So there's a park bench in front of his house, and it's funny. So I go sit on the bench. It's a nice June day out, sun's shining, and I'm laying on the bench with my eyes closed, like my eyes back like this, and all of a sudden I hear, "Don't move, you." And I open up my eyes, and there's a gun right in my nose.
Holy
crap.
I
look right, and then the next thing I knew, someone was behind me, and they literally lifted me up off the bench, and they handcuffed me, and it was about 8 of them.
Damn.
I didn't even hear them. They were like Indians. I didn't hear nothing. I didn't hear a footstep. I heard nothing. And the next thing I knew, they threw me in a van, and they were screaming at me, "We got you now, you murderer. You're going to spend the rest of your life in prison." And blah, 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 blah. And that was it.
Damn.
My whole life flashed in front of my face at that point, because I'm in this van, and the guys are screaming at me. I'm handcuffed, and I'm, oh, my God. And they took me, and then I got out on bail, and then they put me on house arrest. And then about a year later, things happened, and I decided to throw in the towel, and I cooperated.
Wow. They arrested your dad, too, for that one?
No, he was passed away. He
passed away?
He passed away in 99. Yeah, they just arrested me and the shooter, this guy Skinny Dom, Pizzonia. He was a captain in the Gambino family. He was actually the one that did the shooting.
How did they find out so late? Like, what happened?
Other people cooperated that knew about it and led them to us. So, yeah.
Damn. But they had no evidence? It was just their word?
Yeah, they had no evidence. There's no physical evidence, no, because the body disappeared. They never found the body. They never had a murder weapon. But they had enough. They had enough to indict us. I mean, yeah, they had enough.
So just a witness testimony is enough?
Yeah, in the feds, yeah, you don't need a body.
Damn. Because you could just pay someone off.
Circumstantial evidence in the federal courts is good.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's why you went with the plea route? Because if you went to trial, you would have got...
I went to the plea route because my co-defendants was sort of like trying to throw me under the bus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was the last person with him. I picked him up and drove him somewhere, and then he disappeared. So I had some conversations with some people, and I had some conversations with some attorneys, and the attorney actually told me, listen, you're going to get thrown under the bus here. You should call the government.
Damn.
And I couldn't do it. I talk about it all the time. I still couldn't do it. The next day, my wife was driving to work, and I told her to call them and tell them I couldn't make the call.
Wow. That was probably the toughest one for you because you had the family, right?
The worst. I couldn't do it. That haunts me sometimes that I cooperated, but, I think because I cooperated and I changed, I became a counselor. I think I'm sort of trying to make up for all the bad I did. I guess you could say. I don't know.
Karma, right?
Yeah.
Damn, that's deep. Yeah, because you were programmed your whole life to never, ever do that. So that must have been the toughest decision you ever had to make.
It was terrible. Yeah, it was tough. It took me a year. I used to pick up the phone and hang it up.
Holy crap.
I would have the FBI card in my hand, and I would pick up the phone, and I would hang it up.
Damn.
I couldn't do it. I used to get knots in my stomach, sweat. I couldn't do it, and I still couldn't do it. Even when I did do it, I made my wife do it. I couldn't do it
because you knew you'd lose your whole friend group, everything.
Yeah, I was giving up everything I knew, and I had a lot of insecurity because, like I said, I had no skills. But at that point, listen, the mob wasn't the same. There was different people out there, different guys running the show. They took everything. When my father died, they really took everything from us. They weren't looking out for me. And I was done. At that point, I was done. Like, I wasn't willing to spend the rest of my life in prison anymore for the mob. I wasn't willing to do it. If my father was alive or his partner, Tony Lever, was alive, I would have never cooperated because then I would have implemented them in a murder, and I would have never done that. You know, but the cards fell the way they fell. You know, John Gotti was dead. My old man was dead. Tony Lee was dead. You know, and I was done. I was done. I was done with that whole lifestyle. I was done spending time in prison, and that was it.
What happened to Tony?
Tony Lee passed away. He had cancer. He died.
Oh, wow.
He died in 93 before I got arrested in 95. He died 2 years before I got arrested.
Damn. And that was your dad's right-hand man?
Yeah, they were partners from childhood.
That's cool, man. Not a lot of guys come in together and last the whole way through.
If they made 10 cents, they got a nickel each.
Damn.
Yeah. It was like a brother bond. It was crazy, the partnership they had. Like, nobody has a partnership like that.
I've never seen that in the mob.
Yeah, no.
Maybe Gotti and Sammy?
No, Gotti and they were never partners.
Oh, they weren't?
No, they were, you know, if Sammy was the underboss, they were probably partners in some things, but not partners in everything.
Got it.
You know, I think probably Angelo Clark at one time was John Gotti's partner. But other than that, there's not really anybody I knew that had a partnership like Tony Lee and Fat Andy. I mean,
that's probably why it was a successful.
Oh yeah, very. Yeah, they had a big crew. Yeah, they were partners from when they were teenagers.
Yeah, that's crazy. The trust and the loyalty
they used
there.
to tease each other. "Ah, you were a window breaker before you became my partner."
Oh, I love that, man.
Yeah.
So was your grandfather in the Mafia
No,
too?
you know, that's a funny thing. Nobody in my family was in the mob except my father.
Oh, wow.
You know, he never had a father. So my grandfather immigrated from Naples, Italy, in like the turn of the century, and my grandmother was a teenager when they got married. My father was the youngest child out of 8. My grandfather in 1932 got hit by a trolley car.
Damn.
And died, and my father was only 6.
Holy crap.
At the time of my grandfather's death, my father's best friends were this guy Lenny the Donor and Larry Abendando. Larry's father was the Dasher, and Lenny's uncle was Happy Mayoni. They were both members of Murder Incorporated. I'm sure you know about Murders Incorporated. They all got the electric chair with Lepke and Sing Sing.
Holy crap.
So they became his father figures. These mob guys, because his friends' family were all mobbed up. The Mayonis were all mobbed up. The Abendandos, these people were all mobbed up. So they became like his father figures. And when he became a teenager, he started working for them. And he used to tell me he's the way he is because he had no father.
Wow, that's deep, man. Yeah, because a young kid is so impressionable, right?
Because my uncles, his brothers, all were legitimate guys.
Oh, none of them joined?
My uncle, no. They all worked. My 2 uncles worked for the transit. One of my uncles, I mean, he made money illegally within the transit. He was shy like of money, you know, booking bets, but he was legitimate. They all were World War II veterans, my 3 uncles.
Wow.
Totally all legit. And my mother's family, too, all legit.
Damn, that is interesting.
Except Gene, my cousin Gene, his grandfather, my Uncle Junior, he was legit, but not legit. He was a bus driver, but he was a criminal.
Dude, Gene is funny, man, because with his mouth, the fact that he survived, because he just says whatever he says.
Yeah, his grandfather was my mother's kid brother.
Wow.
So he's my second cousin. Yeah.
Were you like mentoring him through the game?
No, you know, I was away. When I went away, he was a kid. When I went away, he was only 12.
Wow.
When I went away in 95, 96, he was 12. He was a year younger than my son. Him and my son are very tight. They grew up together. So when I went away, he was 12. When I came out 8, 9 years later, he was in the mob. Like,
he was already made?
No, he was just running around with the Banana family, and so I never really mentored him or anything. I was away them formative years, you know. But when I came out, I ran into him. Went to get a haircut in Howard Beach, and he was in there getting a manicure and everything. And you know, he paid for my haircut, you know. Yeah, but so I missed out on that, you know.
Wow.
That education that he got.
Did your kid want to join?
Whether he wanted to join or not, I made sure that wasn't never going to happen. You know what I mean? He grew up. The first 21 years of my son's life, either I was in jail, and my father was in jail, or we were both in jail at the same time. The first 21 years of his life, he literally grew up in a prison visiting room, and I made it a point that he was never going to wind up in the shoes I was in, you know. And I used to tell him, I'm not going to make the same mistakes as Grandpa. You know, I always made sure he worked. I always got him jobs. His mother made sure, you know. I mean, he got in trouble, you know, like a kid, you know, normal kid trouble, you know.
Principal's office.
Yeah, you know, stuff like that. I had to bail him out of a few things, you know. I had to bail him out of a couple of situations.
Genetics, man.
Yeah, but he's a hard worker. He works now, you know. He works. I made sure of that.
Nice. Yeah, that's important, man. Anthony, it's been cool. What do you got coming up next, and where can people find you?
Well, they can find me on Reformed Gangsters on my podcast. They can find me at AnthonyRuggianoJr.com on my website. I got a Patreon page. I'm going to be on August 11th at 10 o'clock on the History Channel. I'm going to be on Gangland. That's a show that's coming out. I have a few things going. I'm going to be back out in Arizona with Sammy. I have some mob tours that are really cool on my Patreon page if people want to check them out. And that's it. Reformed Gangsters. Subscribe.
We'll link below. Thanks for coming on, man.
Oh, my pleasure.